Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Good to see you. You look pretty.
Oh God, I just came back from a bike ride. Thank you though.
You have perfect skin. Hi, Lucy. Hello. Hi, hi. If everybody wants to, hey, Chelsea. Hello. Hi, Dr. Ellis. Hey, Jess.
Hello.
I just want y'all all to feel very special because this is the first time I've put on makeup, worn my wedding ring, and had on real clothes, top and bottom, in like 2 weeks. So,
Way to go.
Hey.
Reading all the names here.
yeah, no, me too. Okay. Looking.
I rode hard and ended up wet, so excuse all this.
Hey, Stacy. Hi, Amanda. I'm Jennifer and another Amanda. There's two Amandas. So you might, MJ, my 3-year-old, my husband was supposed to be home in time and he's not. So MJ is playing with my next door neighbor who is an adult who's staying 6 feet away from her in the driveway. So if you see
Okay,
it.
so why don't we have everybody mute their microphones, their audio, just with a ton of background noise. And then we can help you unmute if you need it once we start answering questions.
All right. I think 6:03. Jessica, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah. Do you want to just do brief descriptions for those who might not know each other and then jump into the questions?
Sure.
Okay. Awesome. Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jessica Marks. I know some of you on this call because you were my clients and had questions for Molly. But for those of you who I don't know, I am an elite sales and business strategist. I'm based out of San Diego. I work with female entrepreneurs in my group coaching program who are looking to hit 6 figures for the first time. And then my one-on-one clients who are making multiple 6 figures, making their way to 7. My background is in a multi-billion-dollar startup where I oversaw the national sales and corporate strategy of the business. I also own a construction company with my husband, and I have 2-year-old twins. So I'm busy, but I'm excited to be here. I am hoping that all of you know that it is possible to run a successful business, travel, be a mom, be a great wife, and still really take care of yourself. So I hope this call inspires some of you to really take your businesses to the next level.
Absolutely. So I actually used to work with Jessica at that said company, and she basically ran the show. She doesn't give herself enough credit. And I was actually in outside sales for 9 years and just couldn't do it anymore. When I was pregnant with my daughter, my husband was deployed and came home when my baby girl was 5 months old. So I couldn't exactly keep up a normal sales schedule and travel and living in and out of Marriott's and have no family around and have a newborn. So about a year into being a stay-at-home mom, my chiropractor and I were good friends. I lived in San Diego at the time, and she asked me to help her with her Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, I have that. Like, I can help you. That was like 4 years ago. And then it just spiraled from there. I started helping an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, and a personal trainer. And then my business was born. And now it's been tons of folks. And I know some of you are actually either clients or former clients. So super, super stoked to have you on. We're going to try to get these questions answered as best as possible. So Jessica, do you want to start with some of yours?
Yes. So the first one, I'm not sure if there's a better way to organize this because I think they are in reverse order here.
I can unmute Lakin down here. Lakin, are you?
So Lakin is, I'm a beauty counter consultant, also going to be launching.
I'm trying to unmute you, Lakin, but it's not letting me. But go ahead.
Okay, so Lakin, I believe this is you. I'm a Beautycounter consultant and also going to be launching my health coaching business soon. How do you create a tight-knit community and then convert it to sales? So the best way to get sales off of social media, your email list, is to really build yourself as an expert. So congratulations on starting your health coaching business. What you need to do is your audience has probably been really used to seeing you sell Beautycounter, and you do not want to just transition over to overnight and say, I'm a health coach, here's what I do, and here's my packages. You want to make sure that you take them on that journey with you, and you slowly start introducing that type of business and that type of service and lifestyle. So showing your workouts, and you may already do this, healthy eating, and talk about how you're really going to pursue that passion. You then build yourself up as an industry expert to where your following sees what you're doing on a daily basis, sees the results that you're having as well as your clients are having. And then that slowly will start transitioning to where you're seeing consults convert to sales, because people will watch you from behind the scenes for months, sometimes years. I had a client that we signed 2 weeks ago who's literally been watching me for the last 16 months, waiting until her business got to a revenue where she could then invest in me. And I had no idea. I mean, I've seen her in my stories, I've seen her on my email list, but never once was there any type of conversation like, I'm saving up for this or I'm looking to invest in this. So you have to remember, keep showing up, keep providing that educational content, and then people will slowly start to adapt to what it is that you're pursuing.
She just said in the
Sorry, I
chat
just
that
saw
her,
the
she's
chat.
with the kids and she couldn't talk.
Okay.
And so, Lakin, your question for Instagram is pretty similar. It just says how to create a tight-knit community and how do posts versus stories serve in this. I think, and for those of you who are in my Facebook training, Stacy will know for sure. What I always say, don't overthink it. So I don't want you to get too tied up in like, ooh, is this better for stories or posts? You just, like I said, just showing up, like Jessica said, is the more important thing than worrying like what is better for what. But I will say stories is usually going to be more of the behind the scenes. And I was actually watching your stories and you're nailing it. You're doing a great job. One thing I would say is to try to caption your, and this applies to everybody. If you're going to post multiple stories, 70 to 80% of people watch video on mobile with no sound. So if you're not putting some type of caption on your video, this goes for IGTV as well. I can tell you I have tips for both. When it comes to stories, I just do like a quick little synopsis. Or if you saw my story, I posted literally right before I hopped on here. I was like, no time to caption, make sure you turn the sound on. Or like when I was going through a cleanse in January, I would say, cleanse update, turn sound on if you want to hear it, because it didn't have to do with my business. It was like a personal side. So I'm not saying every single story you have to be like, hello everyone, this is what you need to give people, something so they can follow along. Because if they just start tapping through your stories, that tells the algorithm that your content is not interesting and it's not going to, put it out to more people. And then that's going to hurt you for the next time you post stories. So, really utilizing that. And then I love, for community, like I love the like polls and the stickers, and then actually doing something with that. Don't just throw it up in your stories and be like, cool, I'm getting engagement. You need to actually go follow up with that. So when we did, what was it? I think I did a free webinar 2 weeks ago, and I did a poll in my stories and I said, would you rather this be pre-recorded or would you rather join live? And everybody who answered either one, I went and DM'd them personally the link to the training. So that's really how about the community. And one of my favorite little tricks is, I don't want to call it a trick, but when someone comments on your posts in your grid, following that up with another question, that's just facilitating not only more comments, but it's facilitating that conversation, which is the whole point of Instagram. If you think about Instagram as a business, is what do they want? They want people on their app longer. So if you can keep somebody on there longer and keep the conversation going, that really helps facilitate that tight-knit community. So hope that answers.
I think the next 2 people on the list just had Instagram questions.
Okay, let me pull back up my Google form. Okay. And y'all, we're trying to pay attention to the comments too. So you have any questions in the chat that come up, then please feel free to hop in. Okay. So Vagabond Travel. Are you on?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Oh, your hair looks fabulous, by the way. So you're a travel agency owner. What are my favorite apps and tools for Instagram? What do I use for scheduling? Our live video of myself. What do I need to be doing daily? Our live video of myself. What do I need to be doing daily? What do you mean by that? I separate my personal Instagram and work Instagram. I'm trying to figure out a balance. Okay. So it's a great question. I've used them all in terms of tools. Personally, right now, I've been on the Plann train, PLANN, planthat.com, only because I'm all about utilizing free tools when you can. And Plann is the only one I've found that on their free version, they give you hashtag saturation, meaning, and I can actually literally just share my screen and show you, but it's literally, it shows when you type in a hashtag. So like if I were to type in thyroid, it'll say like, okay, for example, I was just doing a post for a client and she was talking about like COVID-19. That's a terrible hashtag to use. It has like 17 million posts associated with it right now. So Plann gives you like those saturation numbers on the free version, which is really the only reason I like it better right now. But later, Planoly, like they're literally all the same. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Like I said, I just use it because it's got the hashtags. And in terms of a good rotation, I personally don't have two separate accounts because I know that I would never keep up with it. As it is, I only post on my own Instagram. Like I'm lucky to post twice a week because I have so many clients who I do their stuff. So I will share my screen really fast. And I'll make sure all of you get this. If you're already on my email list or know me, then you already have this. But this is on that Zoom call bingo. Can you see my screen? Have y'all seen that meme going around? So if you can see my screen, these are kind of the content pillars that I recommend rotating through. So personal, educating, testimonial, review, social proof, a sales pitch, and then like inspiring or entertaining. So just like a good, healthy mix of all of these content. And so this content planner I have, you can literally just like type directly into it. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. And for stories, I mean, especially during this craziness, it has been more personal. But if you follow Angie Lee, she always says people come for the business, like they come for, what they're learning from you. They come for the education, but they stick around for the personal. So she always says like a 70-30 mix. Isn't that what she says, Jessica? I know you're a big Angie Lee fan, but like I said, I just kind of rotate it. If you kind of think of those 5 content pillars, that's how I like to rotate my content. If that answers your question.
Okay, and Jennifer, I was we're on a different order here, so I didn't realize you were next, but I do see that you have a question for me as well. And I actually I met Jennifer through online, and my husband and I just booked a Bora Bora trip with her. So she's an awesome travel agent, if anybody.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, I was so excited to see her submit questions. So I've been organically successful over the last 5 years due to my circle of influence, but I think after this setback, I'll need to rev back up as if it's the beginning and would love some tips on starting again, almost like a checkup for my business too. I'm okay resetting and taking a step back if it's going to propel me forward to a place I've never been. Will you share tips on time management for handling your own work obligations and pouring into others? And how much time should I allocate to each achieve prime success? Okay, so for those of you who have ever been on a conference call with me or heard me speak, I am a huge fan of CEO Mondays. It's something that I've implemented in my business and in most of my clients' businesses. So Whether you're new to business or you are running an entire team and a multi-million-dollar business, it's so important that you do this. Doesn't have to be on a Monday, but taking an entire day to work on the business versus in the business. So working on the business should be revenue driving activities. This should be figuring out your marketing, your copy, your content, what you're going to post to social media, prospecting, making sure that your financials are in check on a weekly basis, doing basically everything that's going to help grow your own business. We get caught up in working with our clients, or for some of you I see on here, patients, and we forget that we need to be scaling our brands at the same rate that, if not quicker, than we're scaling those for who we work for. So if I was you, Jennifer, and owning a travel agency, I would really spend one day a week figuring out how are you going to position yourself? Who is your target market going to be after we do get on the other side of this? There's still going to be a very healthy demographic of people that are going to want to travel, take advantage of the deals, but that's short term. So sustainable for the long term, if you're looking to take a step back and reposition your agency, what does that look like? What does that look like for each person that works for you? What is it going to take from a social and brand strategy standpoint? Do you need the team that you have now? Do you need to grow the team? So when you are staying on top of that on a weekly basis and not trying to figure it out annually or quarterly, you will see substantial growth, not only in your brand, but you personally, because you have eyes on everything versus counting on everybody to just bring it to you and you dealing with it as it comes. Oh, okay. I was just making sure that that question wasn't for me. As far as pivoting, given what's going on, I always say, like, don't make long-term decisions under short-term circumstances. So yes, I imagine your business is taking a huge hit, and I can't imagine the stress that you've had to face over this last month, rescheduling everybody and all the cancellations. However, this is not how it's going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, but I do think all of us can learn lessons and implement this in our business of what we're going to do next time something happens. It'll for sure be a recession at some point, which is going to be substantially longer than any pandemic or short-term crisis that we're facing right now. And I think somebody's phone isn't on mute, so I just check that.
Yeah.
Just in case you don't want us hearing what you're saying.
Oh, it's Chelsea. It's you.
Oh.
We both know Chelsea, so I wouldn't call.
Okay, so next.
I muted her. Okay, so sorry, I was actually going from the top down, but now I'll go back bottom up because this is one of the first questions I got was from Amanda Raymer. So you asked me, how do you get hashtags in stories to work better? Do you have websites you suggest to find the best hashtags to use? I'm only laughing because like hashtags in stories are kind of like the bane of my existence. It's like sometimes I'll like hit the jackpot and I'll get like tons of views, and then sometimes it's like nada. And then Heather, who's also on the call, noticed something, and she and I have been watching it now. If you go watch a hashtag's story, it changes. It doesn't stay up for what we've seen. You might have seen something different. It doesn't stay up for 24 hours. So it's like such a short fuse window that you're getting when you're using a hashtag in your stories. But the latest, you used to be able to, or y'all might not know this, you used to be able to use up to 10 hashtags in stories and people would hide them. And that's like still some, like, there's some big name marketers who are saying that that's what you should do. But I disagree with that. And let me just show you why. I'm a super visual person, so it's always helpful for me to see things. Okay, when you show up in a story for a hashtag, this is where you are. So Lakin, I had your pulled up. So let's just say, I bet work from home is like a big one right now. Work from home would be a terrible hashtag for your grid because it's got 10.1 million posts. I like to stay under 500,000. But when you're looking at hashtags to use in a story, you have the opposite strategy. You want to use bigger hashtags. And if you really want to up your chances of being picked up in a hashtag, then you want to do your homework and you want to look before you post the story if that hashtag already has an active story. So if you're wanting to post a work from home right now, see how this already has an active story. And you're going to see, I guarantee you, 80 to 90% of these stories that got picked up are going to have work from home as a visible hashtag. They're not hidden. So that's why I don't like the advice of hiding them, because literally I just go look and I'm like, oh, what got picked up? Something that's actually not hidden. So this would probably be better than like work from home life. I don't know. Let's see. So this hashtag would be better for your grid because it's got 243,000. Oh, it has a story too. So that's how you can kind of check. And if you don't know how to check your insights on how to see if your story got picked up, you just literally go to your story on the app and swipe up on it, and it'll show you how many views you got from hashtags.
Molly, you have a question. What do you mean hidden hashtag, hidden in the picture?
Oh, okay. So people used to literally like, so say you had a photo with a white background, they would make the hashtags white and then they would just like blend in. So they were just, people were wanting their stories to be more aesthetically pleasing and didn't want hashtags that you could see. Or they would like hide it behind a GIF or like hide it behind a photo. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Like you want it to be actually visible. And I use usually up to 3. If you are a local business, it's not redundant to use your location and a hashtag that has your location. So just because Miranda, I know she lives near where Headless Horseman, Sleepy Hollow. Like I know, like she could use the Sleepy Hollow geotag and then also use the Sleepy Hollow hashtag in her stories if she was, you know, trying to get local attention. And that's not redundant. Those are 2 separate places that you have the opportunity to show up, if that makes sense. Also, why is auto posting a bad idea? Auto posting is a bad idea only because it's not a bad idea to have it pushed to your phone as like a push notification that you have to then go manually post. It's a bad idea to auto post because, again, going back to what does Instagram want? They want you on their app. And if you're just auto posting all your content and you're not actually on the feed, then you're not really going to see your reach is going to be greatly reduced. So I have an engagement checklist, and I don't think anybody's on this call who I got messages from. I did a private call just with Jessica's, some of her clients, what was that, 2 weeks ago? And I got some great feedback in using that engagement checklist. And the first step in my engagement checklist is to get on Instagram about 5 minutes before you post and comment and like on people on your feed, because that tells the app and it tells the algorithm you are online, which means once you post, it's like, oh, cool, this person's online, and they're going to what? They're going to engage with their community, which means they're going to keep other people on the app longer. So even if you can just do it for like 2 minutes, that's better than 0 before you post instead of auto posting. And you'll all get my engagement checklist as well, and it'll walk you through that.
Okay, so the next question that came in was from Allie at Love Leaf Co. It's kind of long, but I'll summarize it here. So she helps people declutter their kitchens and simplify healthy living. She's launching her first program in May, the Kitchen Reset, but the product and launch won't be exactly how I envisioned it due to the pandemic. For example, I had some videos and photo shoots scheduled that can't be included. I'm going ahead with it anyways and launching a beta version of sorts and a more polished version in the fall, but I feel uncomfortable that I would more uncomfortable than I normally would, putting something out to the world that feels a little incomplete. Do you have any tips for positioning a beta version of a program to my audience? Should I even call it that? And selling in general during this odd time. Okay, so for everybody on the phone or the call, selling during this time, people are still spending money. So do not let that deter you from showing up and selling. And people are buying now more than ever because they're stuck at home and they have more exposure to social media and all the stuff that they didn't even know they wanted. Home decluttering being a prime opportunity. So you're looking at this like you have a disadvantage. I'm looking at it like there are millions of Americans right now stuck inside their homes that are realizing that their kitchens absolutely 100% need to be decluttered. As far as calling it a beta test or launching before you're ready, you will never be fully ready. And I have clients that are dead set on perfecting whatever their signature program is going to be. And I tell them all the time, you will not know what that program is meant to be until you actually put clients through it. And I wouldn't call it a beta test because you're not really a beta test, you're not going to have people pay for. So if it's going to be done behind the scenes and you're going to give it to your family, friends, that's a beta. If you're going to actually have people pay for it, this is for you putting out round one of what this program looks like, and there's room to be improved upon. It's going to be important that you get feedback from people that go through this program, that you ask for testimonials, that you yourself are paying a lot of attention to what people are utilizing and what they're not utilizing. And maybe you don't have full video or photo production. So I would then offer maybe a bonus FaceTime call where you actually walk them through their kitchen, or you take some of your own photos on an iPhone and make it work for now, knowing that you can always improve on it. But if you wait until you're ready to start, you will probably never start.
So Allie was one of my OG clients. So I know Allie's a perfectionist as well. If you look at her feed, it's absolutely gorgeous, and not one photo is out of place. So yeah, I think that's Jessica's advice is perfect, is that you just got to go. And Allie is actually a photographer, which I also find funny that you're worried about. So yeah, you've got this.
I would literally launch this tomorrow.
Yeah, I have a whole garbage bag full of stuff to take to Goodwill that I've decluttered from my kitchen this week. If that gives you any, I'm just like, throw it all out. Because like Jessica said, you're home and you're sick of seeing all of the crap everywhere.
But Allie, just real quick, I would not use this pandemic in your positioning at all. I would just treat it like you would treat it as if this wasn't going on. That when you have a cleaner kitchen, when you have less clutter, when you can see the food that, and you don't have, whatever the program is, what that does for your life, what the solution is, how much better you're going to feel. I'm so sick of hearing about the virus. I know my clients across the board have all said they don't want to hear about the virus anymore. It's not a sales tactic right now in any way. Don't use it as a sales tactic. Just show up and provide the solution, be a resource, be giving free tips that people can start doing to build yourself as the expert, and then say, you're having, this is working out so well for you. Here's a program that you can buy into to really take it to the next level. But I wouldn't say, oh, because you're stuck inside your house. That's good to know behind the scenes. That's a statistic that you want to know, that all these Americans are stuck inside their home, but don't use it as a selling point.
Well, and I would say though, and Jessica, I don't want to disagree with the business expert, but also like the fact that I know you do like a lot of the capsule pantry stuff, Allie, and the fact that people are going to the grocery store less, too, like you help them, like I said, you have to position it that way, but it's literally even before this happened, what you sell is perfect for this anyway, because you're like, hey, let's cook with the items we have on hand and let's have less waste in our kitchen. Like that's what you were selling even before. So it's just like a natural fit. You don't even have to change your messaging because it's perfect. So your Instagram question is super good, and I think a lot of people on here are probably going to relate to this. You said, I don't mind posting on Instagram, but stories and regular posts, and I love interacting with people who reply to comments and people I follow, but the idea of actively going out to find people to meet is extremely draining to me. and you go on to say, I know that being social is part of the platform. I feel like I just waste a lot of time. Of course, you want to grow your account. So your main question is there one thing besides posting 5 times per week and daily stories that I should be doing to most efficiently move the needle on IG, weekly IGTV, setting a daily timer for outreach? So just as anything, like time on the app doesn't necessarily equal growth. That was your last question. I would encourage you to not post 5 times a week and use 2 of those days to really ramp up doing the outward engaging. And I have found that even when I only do it for like 5 minutes on either side, it really increases my reach on my posts. So it doesn't have to be this thing that you set a timer and you outwardly engage for an hour every day. I mean, that would grow your account a lot faster. But if that's something that's draining to you, what's going to happen is you're just going to burn out and then you're never going to want to do it. So set a time that like feels reasonable. And this is totally an example of progress, not perfection. Or what is it? 1 is better than 0. What's the saying? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. It definitely, just say you reach out to 2 random people and comment, that's way better than 0. Like if that's all you have time or mental space for. And then I would consider, even like if you still feel like you're putting a lot of time and effort into creating content, you have so much content on Loveleaf. You could even start repurposing, like you could do like a Throwback Thursday type thing and repurposing like posts you've done a few thumb scrolls back. No one will notice. And I always encourage people to spend less time doing the content part and more time building the community and doing the outreach. Does that help?
Somebody asked, what does outward engagement actually include?
Okay, so that's a great question. And Miranda and I are about to be working one-on-one. So we'll dive into this even more when you and I work together. But outward engaging is everything on my engagement checklist, but basically it just means, and I'll send it, like I said, I'll make sure all of you get it if you don't already have it, but it's the one thing that will literally change your stats like within a few days. Like I feel like I've seen it. I'm doing it currently for a client. And let me just give you an example. So I have a client who's a functional medicine doctor in Pasadena, and I'll go find other, not like her competitors, so not like other functional medicine doctors in Pasadena, because that's a direct competitor, but like bigger name doctors in the wellness space. And after I post for her, I'll go to the comment section of these big known doctors and like some of the comments in there. Or if I see someone whose profile is public, I'll follow that person. I'll comment on one of those people's posts, because I know if that person is in there commenting on Dr. Mark Hyman, for example, then they're also going to like my client's content because it's the same. When I'm doing it for myself, I go to Jasmine Starr's comments section. I go to all of those online marketers' comment section. And it's not like I'm poaching, like they don't do the same thing. It'd be different if I went to somebody who did the exact same thing I did. Like that's a little, and if you're a local business, you can do that with, say it's a local coffee shop. You can be, go in the comments, oh, I love this coffee shop too, for someone else who's commenting on the coffee shop or whatever. So that's what I mean by outward engaging. It goes a lot further than that, but just for sake of time, I won't go into all of it, and it's all on the checklist.
Okay, so the next question comes from Anna. Let's see. How do you know how to put appropriate timelines in place when starting out? There's so much get yourself out there now and be there for your people. When I'm switching my niche and doing the research, I'm not in the spot where mentally I'm ready to put content out there quite yet. It's hard to know how to put goals in place when I'm wrapping my mind around getting the foundations in place. Hope that makes sense. Okay. I am switching from helping women post-divorce discover their strengths to helping online entrepreneurs, exact niche still to be determined, discover how they can use their strengths to build a business and how their strengths help with their clients. So obviously you heard me say earlier, like, ready is a lie, you got to get started. Unless you're really just not ready to get started, right? So I tell people, like, don't leave your job and go into business if you don't have clients and you've never tried it out before and you don't have the financials to carry you through, because it's going to make entrepreneurship really hard. So if you're currently helping women post-divorce and now you're wanting to go after the entrepreneurial market and help business owners figure out their strengths, that's going to be two totally, completely different types of sales, two different emotions, two different buying triggers, two completely different business foundations that you need to have in place. And so if you're still in the research and discovery phase of what this new business is going to be, I would hyper focus on that. It's going to get you to the finish line of launching sooner and getting out of that phase when you feel most comfortable, and really figuring out how you're going to start getting in front of that market. But I know from like a marketing or a social media standpoint, your website, your current email list, it's probably going to be very different. So like I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to make sure this transition makes sense to your current following, and that you're not just putting a stake in the ground tomorrow saying, now my business is this, and it's something night and day different than what it was before, because it's going to be very confusing for your consumer on where you're actually the expert. And if you don't feel like you're the expert yet, or that you are qualified to make this change in your business, I would really recommend, taking whatever courses, certification, education that you need in order to feel really comfortable in saying, I'm an expert in this, and this is why you should pay me, $3,000, $5,000, whatever the amount is that you're going to be charging, that you're able to then deliver the results that you're guaranteeing.
And so Jessica actually knows, Anna actually does this Gallup Strengths Finder, and Jessica and I use that at our old company, so we're super familiar with that test. Okay, so Anna, you ask for me, and this I think probably would be a good question to resonate with a lot of people as well. How do you recommend going on social when it requires a level of bravery? Because I've purposely stayed away from it all my life. It requires experimentation with finding your voice, figuring out what just show up actually means, doing research in your niche, keeping yourself sane during this really weird time, because we're all managing our own stress levels differently, and I don't necessarily want to show that on Instagram. Okay, I love this question because it's obviously not the first time I've gotten a question like this. So I shouldn't admit this, but before I started my business, a little over a year ago, I had never once in my life, no, I lied, one time ever in my life had I ever posted a selfie, ever. And it was because I went brunette once, and it was like super weird. So for me, and I used to, every time somebody posts a selfie, I'd be like, oh my God, why are you, and it's just so funny how now it's like, I'm literally just recording myself talking to my phone every day. And 2 years hasn't even passed. So I think when people say just show up, it means you just have to, when you're getting in the pool for the first time and it's kind of cold and you just get in a little bit and then you get in a little bit more and then you get in a little bit more, like eventually it's comfortable. And then, you're like diving in the deep end, and it just, you need to give yourself some grace. And Chelsea, who I work with, she's one of Jessica's clients and she's actually my health coach. She says, the intention with which you do everything is what's important, right? So if you're just showing up, even when you don't feel like it, sometimes just to record a story, like this is probably gonna be counterintuitive to what a lot of people would tell you to do. I would say don't do it, because if you don't feel it and it doesn't feel right to you, then that's gonna come through to your followers. And so Jasmine Star always says, if you wouldn't feel comfortable sharing it with somebody sitting next to you on the airplane, it doesn't, necessarily need to be something you want to post on social. And for those of you who've gone through my 6 mistakes webinar training, you'll know that one of the things I hate is the vulnerable post alert. When that's because that's just almost like when somebody's just going out of their way to be vulnerable just to get that attention. Does that make sense? I don't know, y'all nod your heads if you're resonating. You know what I'm saying? It reads that way. So if this doesn't feel like the time, you can even do a post that says that, I'm naturally an XYZ person. You can even incorporate your knowledge of StrengthsFinder in that post. So you're still like putting out your expertise, and just say this, time is super hard for me to navigate. I'm sure this resonates with you. Are you having a hard time showing up on social? And you can kind of start a conversation that way. So yeah, don't force it. Like if it feels weird and you're not feeling like I said, even if I always tell people, I'm like, start by doing a video with your face not in it and just your voice, and then like work your way up. And eventually, I think the first 5 times I went live, I think like 3 people jumped on and like 2 were my VAs. So like eventually, like I said, it takes time, and eventually you get more and more comfortable with it. And I hope that helps.
Okay, so the next question is from Chelsea Carroll. This actually isn't Chelsea Haynes on. This is a different client of mine, Chelsea.
Sorry.
Yeah, and it's for you. She wrote, I'll read it to you since I already have it up. What is the best approach to reaching out to brands to work with them, even though I don't currently have a very big social media following? And Chelsea owns Lofty Lash, which is a lash extension studio, and they also do skincare and facials.
Okay, so I guess my first question would be, would that be you're wanting to reach out to brands just like in addition to marketing your lash studio? And then, so influencer marketing is definitely not my specialty, but I do know that the best thing you can do is just start by just doing it organically. So like as you're using things, not just the brands that you eventually want to work with, but just anything, just starting to incorporate that into like your stories that you're posting and tagging the brands. And then a lot of times you'd be surprised, they just write you back and they're like, oh, hey, could we send you free product or whatever? I would be very, very, very leery of going down the free product road, because a lot of times, unless the terms are like super, super clear, I would always direct brands and like try to be super professional and direct them to email you, and have some type of like rate that you have, like, hey, we do this many posts and this many stories. This is for this amount, and you just kind of get started going that way, because it's really not about your followers with influencer marketing anymore. It's more about like your engagement. So and by engagement, I don't just mean likes and comments. I mean your overall reach and all of that. So yeah, I would just start by, like I said, organically tagging them in your stories and starting to incorporate them into what you do. Because a lot of times they'll repost you too, which is awesome.
Okay, so the next one comes from Miranda. Miranda asked me, what characteristics separate a good CEO business owner from a great one? When you have a new business, how do you know what to prioritize and to focus on, and when? Best ways to overcome imposter syndrome, and how to price according to market. Okay, I could go on for hours on all of these, so I'm going to touch base on the first 3 really quickly. So characteristics that separate a good CEO from a great one. So right now, I'm going to tell you it's resilience, because I've had conversations over the last 2 weeks with over 100 female entrepreneurs, some of them my clients, most of them not, helping women get through what's going on. And I will tell you, there are women that have tenacity, resilience, and drive that are going to get them through this no matter what's going on in their business and how much their sales have tanked. And there are others that have only had a slight impact to their revenue that are ready to just kick their feet up and hang out on the couch and ride this out and hope that everything works out in the end. So I think that as a business owner, one, you have to really be in it for the long game, not just the immediate results or when your business is thriving, but when your business also needs a lot from you. I also think that a really great business owner is somebody that stays very well educated. So if you started your business 10 years ago, businesses are ran completely different today. And with the onset of social media and technology, you have to be willing to stay ahead of the curve. You have to be willing to be first to market, do things differently. I always use the taxi companies as an example. They did business as usual, and boom, overnight Uber came along and wiped them out. So if you're not thinking about how can we make this more efficient for our clients, how can we do it better, the longevity of your business it just won't be there. And then number 2 is, when you have a new business, how do you know what to prioritize or focus on and when? So once you got your business foundations in place and you have a website, you have marketing, and you're getting on social media, it's prospecting all day, every day. I have a group coaching program where I work with, new female entrepreneurs in their first year to 2 years of business. And this is the one time in your business where you are going to be able to prospect every single day. Because for those of us who have been in business for a few years, it just isn't possible anymore. And we have to rely on other, outreach through marketing to get it done for us. So you should be creating as many leads as possible and building as much brand awareness that you can so people actually know who you are. You need thousands of people to know what your business is in order to drive 6-figure sales. The best way to overcome imposter syndrome. So I actually did a whole panelist on this last July. I was a speaker. And what I tell everybody is, whatever areas of your business you are most insecure about, whether it be financials, whether it be marketing, sales, whatever areas you struggle with and you don't have the most education on, or you're unsure about, that is the area where you should be trying to learn as much as possible. There's so many great books, podcasts, coaches, webinars that you can do to learn these different areas of your business. And so identify and be honest with yourself, like where you really struggle with. If it's sales, you got to get really good at sales. It's the oxygen to your business. It's the only way you're going to increase your revenue. So do what you need to do in order to get, really comfortable. And that imposter syndrome, the more you know, the less you have it. So if you're really knowledgeable about, baking, and you're talking to a room full of people that don't know how to bake, you're really freaking confident on what you're talking about. But if you then have to go into a room with a bunch of people who are really educated on dogs, and you know nothing about dogs, and you have to present to them, you're going to feel insecure and like you're not the expert in that area. So really identify what areas of your business are holding you back and focus on that growth personally. And then I could go on and on about pricing and packaging. So I won't get into that on this call because it's going to be very specific to each industry. Molly, are you on mute?
Yes, I was. It told me I was muted. Zoom is so smart.
So
I will touch on the imposter syndrome thing very quickly because I hear this a lot with Instagram. And the best thing I did for myself with my imposter syndrome was, and this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you can translate it to your business, was I held some live workshops, and to see people's like aha moments when I taught them things like real life or Zoom like this, you're like, oh, okay, I really do know what I'm talking about. So just doing it and like getting those results from people is a quick surefire way. Okay, we're like running low on time. So let's get into, Leanne, your question actually also touches on packages for Jessica. Jessica, do you want to go ahead and answer that one? And then I can answer her Instagram. It says, I need help packaging my gift. My business is to coach people facing chronic illness. My superpower is helping with perspective. Also just offering support and cheering. I was diagnosed with MS 10 years ago, and I have clarity on what my ideal person needs because I am her. I've been doing it for free, and of course I still want to do that, but would love some structure if someone wanted an actual program or coach. Also, do I need a website, freebie, welcome series? What should I pay for to help me get off the ground?
Okay, so I think you need to decide, am I going to do a hobby or am I going to have a business? So a business takes a lot of investment, and yes, you're going to need a website, social media, opt-in, all of that. Don't try to do a business without it because there's so many, all the markets are really saturated right now. And if you don't have that, people are not going to feel like your brand has credibility. As far as if you do decide to jump in and say, I'm not going to make this a hobby anymore, I'm not doing it for free, I want to change the way people feel, I want to be a coach, I want to be a support system, you're going to reverse engineer it. So I want you to take your ideal client. So if they're suffering from chronic illness or MS, what is going to be the solution, the end result, the feeling, the experience that they have once they're done working with you? And you're going to figure out how long does it truly take somebody to get to that point. So I see all the time business coaches that say I have a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day program. Well, shit is not going to happen in a business in 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. You may make a couple extra $100, but if you're going to do real work, it takes a substantial amount of time. Same with health, wellness, weight loss. You cannot be changing people's lives in 30 to 60 days. So figuring out how much time you need to make a massive impact on somebody's life, and then building it backwards. So how are you going to get to that destination, and then figuring out all the steps, and then that will be your program. But I would say right now you have a decision to make, and it's hobby versus business. And I think a lot of women get really confused on what they have, if it is, a business or not. But if you are truly running a business, you have to have financial means to, one, start it, and two, maintain it if you're really going to want to see a return and have it be something very lucrative for the amount of time you're going to put into it.
And then your Instagram question was super similar. So I'm not sure, did the content planner help answer that question about your content rotation? Okay, cool. And then, okay, so Kelly's Specialty Pies. So are you on? I don't think you are. Yes, no, I don't think so. Okay, I didn't think she was on. But she had a lot of, let me just go to see somebody else who might be on.
Lucy from the Loaf Bar is on.
Okay, go ahead. So Lucy, your question for Jessica, best practices to nurture a previous customer relationship.
Yeah, so I think client experience is huge, especially right now. You'll hear me say it all the time. Markets are saturated. So how are you taking care of your current clients? Your current clients should be your best sales rep. So they should be driving a lot of referrals into your business. And so if you are somebody that does, 1 to 2 point of sale contacts, and they're more product based and not an ongoing service, it's going to be really important that, one, you make the experience memorable for them, and that the product is something that they, really enjoyed. But then two, staying in touch, email lists, offering them incentives, giving them referral bonuses for referring people, reaching out to them on social media, asking them to write reviews. So as much point of contact as you can have in order to retain clients. It's very important that you always take into consideration, what is the lifetime value of your client? So I'm just going to throw out Jennifer on here because I've worked with her. So I just booked a vacation through her. Now she could treat me as if I'm just a one-time client that's booking this trip, or she could take on every single client knowing that I'm in my 30s. I'm going to take a lot more vacations in my lifetime. What could that ultimately translate into her business every time she signs a new client? And how many potential vacations could I not only book, but I've also referred her, sent people her way that I know would also book vacations. So it's really important to think about that for every single client you bring into your business.
And then Lucy, your question was best practices to convert IG inquiries to sales. So this is not sexy, and no one's going to like my answer, but it's the truth. It doesn't scale, and it's DMs. That's really, and voice DMs are really my jam. Sometimes I'll be voice DMing with somebody. I'm like, I don't even know how this person found me. And now we're like friends. So, and they always end up, like I said, converting somehow. So like I said, I know people don't like to hear that because they expect some okay, you post a lead magnet on the link in your bio, and then you get them to your email list, and then, which that is great. And you do need to do that because there's going to be people, like Jessica said, who it takes months and months and months. So you do need that type of marketing, but that's not the only, no type of marketing is going to replace old school relationships. So, yeah, the DMs, watching people's stories, like that's always big. So like I said, I know that's not the sexy answer that everybody wants to hear, but
Okay. Next is Stacy from No Fuss Naturals. So kind of similar, any tips on prioritizing what areas to work on in your business when you don't have a team and are short on time? What are the best tasks to give a VA when you need to increase your income in part so you can keep your VA? So one of my biggest things that I work with women is going from solopreneur to CEO. So building out teams. Last year, my clients alone hired on 27 employees between the group of them. And so it is really important that you realize you cannot do this on your own. You could get to 6 figures on your own. If you want to get to multiple 6 figures, you have to have a team in some capacity. So the first thing I always have them do is create a list of everything that they do in a week, from little tasks to the big picture. And then I have them go through and I have them highlight what are the tasks that you absolutely have to do that no one else could possibly do for you. Not that you don't think anyone else could do, not that you don't think anyone could do it to the way you want it, but the things that only you can do. So if you're a coach, that would be like coaching calls, discovery calls, things like that. And then figuring out what of that makes sense to hand off to a VA, to an assistant. But it's really important that you realize that you can't be in the weeds. You absolutely can't. That you should be focusing on things that drive revenue, that create higher clientele, that are serving your current clientele and the customer experience. And then pretty much everything else, I guarantee you somebody can do it a hell of a lot better than you. And you have to be setting up those systems from when you start your business to be able to hand it off. So I have all of my clients that are working by themselves right now, creating an outline of what it's going to look like when they bring on their team. So they have systems, they have processes, they have an onboarding process for when they bring on new clientele. They have the invoicing, everything done step by step. So when they bring on their first hire, it's very easy for that person to understand how to do it the way that the business is currently running, but then be open to feedback, because oftentimes they have incredible suggestions on how you can streamline your operations. But I would hand off anything that, so here's a caveat. I always tell them too, if you're going to hire a VA for 10 hours a month, you better be prospecting and driving new business all those 10 hours, because you want to make sure that anybody you hire is profitable for the business. So anybody that works for me, whether they're a VA or they're a full-time employee, I incentivize them with any new business they bring. I'll give them 10% of the contract signed. So it also incentivizes people working for you to also be driving business as well.
And Stacy, for you with the Natural Body Care Club, Stacy also is an OG client of mine. She's extremely smart when it comes to all things herbal, homemade body care products. And so a lot of people could be hanging out in Facebook groups for you, kind of helping promote your services and things like that. So your question for Instagram that I think would be really relevant, just because like I know we're running low on time. So any suggestions for how to decide if something is better to share in stories, IGTV, or live video? That's a great question. And when I saw this come through earlier, I was like trying to think about it. And then I realized, really, you can even repurpose it for all of it, because people see different things. So like someone might be shown your IGTV who's not shown your stories. And someone might happen to be on when you go live and discover you that way, who maybe is not on later. So I don't think there needs to be, this is my opinion, I don't think there needs to be some special like, okay, this is best for this and this is best for that, because all video can be repurposed and used in all 3 places. I don't know if y'all have done an IGTV recently, but when you share it to your stories now, it's like playing more of it rather than like it just so. So that's kind of like I said, I know that's not like a cool answer, but if you are going to go live, I would say you either pick a certain time where you go live every week. So for me, it's every Friday at 10 o'clock. And I show up every Friday at 10 o'clock, even sometimes. They have filters now in live, which is great, which is great. So even if I'm looking like, hot mess, I will go live every Friday at 10. And what I do is I collect questions that I've gotten throughout the week and answer those on live. And then you can repurpose that for your stories. A lot of people will record that and then share it on IGTV. So yeah, I don't think there's any certain thing that has to be special. I mean, you just wouldn't want, I will say, if you're doing a really long tutorial, if you're getting over I would say 5 to 7 little 15-second blocks, you're going to start losing people, because you have to think about the type of content people want to consume in stories. People are usually consuming stories mindlessly. You don't go to stories I'm going to learn something. You go to stories because you just want to scroll. So you do want to leave the more mindful, longer form stuff for IGTV or live. And then so you can share the preview to your stories, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. Was that everything, Jessica? Okay. Anybody on the call? Did we miss you if you had a question?
Did we miss anybody?
Like I said, Stacy's Page, are you on? She had a lot of questions, but I don't want to.
So one thing I think is really important to remember as entrepreneurs is that to be an expert in your field, so I'm just looking at some of you and what you do and listening to these questions, is a lot of people are coming to you for your services because they don't know how to do it themselves. And a lot of times people think they need to be 10 steps, 20 steps, 30 steps ahead of somebody to teach them. You could be a mile ahead of them, but if you're that far ahead of them, you're going to have a really hard time converting them. So for example, I don't use terminology on my social media posts like EBITDA or things that I know my typical client or prospect wouldn't understand. They just don't use that terminology in their business. And so even though you may know it, and especially for Dr. Erin on the line, and you want to make sure that anytime you're creating content or copy or speaking on social media or whatever it may be, even on a panel, that you kind of position yourself on the other side of the screen and what they would understand and what they need the most to hear in order to want to do business with you. And so just try to not overcomplicate things or make it so confusing, because a confused buyer doesn't buy. Oh, Kelly's Pies is here.
Yes, Kelly, you are. I keep calling you Kelly. I know your name is not Kelly. Amanda. Okay. I will just really quickly, because you did have some really good questions. If that's okay with everyone.
I don't think hers are not showing up on mine. If there was any, I don't know, for me.
No, I'm not seeing any. Okay. Oh, love this question. Should I stick with an Instagram aesthetic to be cohesive, or does it matter anymore? I personally don't think it matters anymore. People are coming to you for the real stuff. Now you don't want to post dark photos or grainy photos or something that's not representing your brand, but look at people who I always say, if you're trying to find an Instagram person who's going to make you have this beautifully matching feed or grow your followers overnight, I ain't the person for you. So to me, that's way too much pressure. And the amount of people who actually come look at your whole feed versus just seeing your posts one off is too small to even really notice. It used to be the trend. Had this been 2 years ago, I would have said, yes, it's important. I know it's Amanda. I don't know why I keep calling you Kelly. Kelly Specialty Pies. How and when should I utilize boosting? Okay, so boosting a post is kind of what I've been told is lighting your money on fire. I actually took Rick Mulready's ads course. So when you boost a post, you don't harness the full potential of Facebook Ads Manager. I don't know if anybody on the call here is familiar with Facebook ads and boosting posts. Boosting a post is so much easier than going through Ads Manager. It's definitely the easy button. So if you want to set up your ad that way initially, if you have a lead magnet or, for you, you're trying to sell your pies or whatever, you can boost it the first time just because it's easier. But then you want to be able to go back into Facebook Ads Manager and use that data to retarget for an ad that's actually going to be working for you. And that's a very long we'll have to talk offline about that, because like I said, Facebook ads is like a very long, we could do a whole call just on that. So a lot of this has already been answered about balancing, like so many of you, like ADAD, majority of you asked about balancing the personal content with the business content. And like I said, I like to use that 1 out of 5 posting methods, except for with stories. I tend to do a little more personal, but you just have to test what works with your audience. But the reason Instagram has blown up is because people are sick of doing business with a faceless company. People like to see that Jessica has twins and she got her twins a bouncy house to keep them occupied while she's trying to work from home without her husband there during a pandemic. Like, people want to see like, oh, like I can relate to that. Or maybe they don't relate to it at all, and she's then repelled someone who potentially wouldn't be a good fit. So that's why I think Instagram is just such a cool platform. But you do ultimately want to be serving, and by serving, that's like educating, inspiring, that type of thing.
I think you have to do too what feels right for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't actually post a ton of my personal life. I will post my kids here and there, but I'm not the mom that's highlighting all day long with my kids. Just because it feels like work to me to have to do that. And when I'm with my kids, I'm really present. So I don't want to have my phone in my hand. You just have to, I think when it starts becoming like you're overly stressing about what you're going to put on social media or how often you're going to do it and not taking breaks from it, I think you should just let it happen organically. It will come across that way. I think if you're trying to portray or be somebody you're not, ultimately you have to remember this is just a marketing tool. This is not like your whole business. So it's just one piece of marketing. You should have multiple pieces of marketing, and then to just do what feels comfortable to you.
Yeah. And I do a lot of MJ just because I don't have 2 accounts, and I always get a large amount of DMs back from what I post. So like for me, that it works because like I said, that's great that I'm getting engagement back. So like Jessica said, you just see what works for you. And another question I had was like, how do you be present in the moment versus posting all the time? You don't have to post it right then. Like if you want to snap photos of whatever it is, whether it be business or personal, it doesn't mean you have to post it right then. Like some of the best posts I've ever had have been photos that were like 2 years old. So thoughts on Lightroom presets? Yes. So Lightroom presets are fine. Honestly, recently, I've just been using the brightness on my iPhone. I have found, Allie, you probably are like shaking your head. You can talk more about Lightroom presets, but yeah, I mean, you don't want your photos to be dark for sure. But if you do want them all to have like a similar look, yeah, Lightroom presets are a super easy way to do that. And then I think this is a really good one to wrap up with, because I'm sure Jessica has some good thoughts on this too. What are some of the things we should be sensitive to in social media marketing during a pandemic? I think it depends on where your target market is. So like Allie, I know like you're kind of closer to the city. So like if you're like, I have a client, Francis, who's in Brooklyn. Like if you're in an area and the majority of your clients are in an area that are just like really being hit hard and devastated, I'm not saying that every post you have should be about, but you do need to at least, you can't just like pretend it's not happening, but it doesn't have to be like during this difficult time or during this uncertain time or during times of uncertainty. Like every post doesn't have to start with that. You can still recognize what's going on without making your post be about the pandemic. And if you're in an area kind of that's maybe not as hardly hit as much, or your audience is, in that area, then yeah, I think that just kind of depends on your messaging there. Jessica, do you have any thoughts on that to wrap up?
Yeah, I would just stop posting about it for the most part. I mean, if you want to, I'm not touching base on it other than I'm really encouraging other entrepreneurs that are not impacted like myself. I mean, my business, thank God, has not been impacted. And so I've been challenging other entrepreneurs to step up and donate to different relief funds right now. And I'm matching donations and just been sharing that. And as invoices come in that get paid. So if you can utilize it right now to do, good. If you can get donations to come in, or you can, impact people's lives and do that, then use it that way. If you can do a percentage of your sales right now, I'm all for that. But as far as like overly talking about it and positioning all of your business to that right now, I think people are wanting to see a breath of fresh air. They're wanting to see light. They're wanting to see hope. They're wanting to see that there are people that are thriving and supporting one another. And I think that's going to build up your relationships with people more so than coming together and just, being a black cloud.
Yeah, and this is good Instagram advice always, is just put yourself as a user. Like, what do you want to see? Like, do you want to see another post about uncertain times? I don't. Like I said, if you're in the heart of New York City and like maybe you're a nurse or what you're doing, like it just totally depends on your audience. You're obviously not going to be posting about, something silly if you're, in the thick of it, but it just comes down to knowing your audience. So yeah.
And there are restaurants, there are gyms, there are cycle studios, there are businesses that were literally shut down overnight. I have a plastic surgeon's office that I work with that was shut down. I mean, when you think about the massive revenue impact that will have on a business for 60 days, yet we were able to pivot all those businesses and offer something right now to still bring in sales, to still be a resource, to still build out great brand strategy of donations, of donating food or supplies or whatever it may have been. And so there's other ways that you can get creative. And if they can do it and your business is something that's not impacted, and then you're just still focusing on like how awful this is, when there's so many people that have been severely impacted that are finding a way to pivot and navigate through this, it's not going to reflect on your business the way that you're going to want it to when we all come out of this.
Yeah. I will say, and I don't say this as like a bragging, but just like as a ray of hope, because someone asked me, I've actually been busier than I've ever been. I've had more inquiries and more people added to my email list this week or these past 2 weeks than like the last 4 months combined. Like so yeah.
I just have to say one more thing and then I know we're done. Okay. So the reason you're busy right now, Molly, and this is for all of you on the call. So the sales cycle, typically 90 to 120 days. So what you were doing 90 to 120 days ago are impacting your sales now, right? Because 90 to 120 days ago, when you were prospecting, you're showing up, you were building yourself as the expert on social media, your email list. These people have come on this journey with you, and now they've been impacted, and they're saying, I need a business coach. I can't do this alone. I need someone to help me navigate my social media, or I need to make this investment so I can come out on the other side of this. On the contrary, 90 to 120 days from now is going to reflect what you're doing in this moment. So if you are sitting back, relaxing, posting all this sad stuff onto social media and not prospecting, not networking, not taking, full advantage of this downtime and really continuing to fill that pipeline, you're gonna have a very difficult time pulling out of this. And that's just like an honest truth. So I have personally been lighting a fire under all my clients' little behinds to be like you, and I see some of them on this call looking at me like they know it, to show up on social media, stay connected, over deliver to your current clients, build this trust, build your referrals, fill that pipeline, because people will be ready to spend money 3 months, 6 months from now. And if you stop showing up, so are your sales.
Yep. And you're exactly right. Everyone who has reached out was either a former client or someone who's been on my list or been following me, or a direct referral from one of those people.
Okay. So this was, I loved this. It was so neat to see so many new faces and people that we haven't connected with before. So Molly, how can we find you on social media?
So just follow me at Molly A. Cahill, Cahill. And if you want to, like I said, we purposely wanted to keep this pitch free. There obviously are ways to work with both of us if you want to, but we honestly truly did just want to be a resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have questions after this call, feel free to reach out to either one of us. You can reach out to me through my Instagram, the Jessica Marks. I'm a huge fan of voice memo. So if you DM me on there, I will respond pretty quickly. So if you didn't get a question answered or you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out.
So what I'm going to do for everybody is trigger my welcome series. So you'll get those 2 freebies that I showed you, the content planner and the engagement checklist.
Very cool. All right, ladies. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
I don't know where my daughter went, so I'm going to go find her from the neighbors. Bye, guys.
Thank you.